Every year, the most beautiful, inventive and inspirational new homes in the country go head-to-head in a competition organised by the Royal Institute of British Architects to find the best new house in Britain. Over the last year, the RIBA have trawled through hundreds of hopeful entries, putting together a long list of the best architecture this country has to offer. From small-scale buildings that wear their craftsmanship on their sleeve. This is not what I expected. There's a courtyard in the middle of the building. To magnificently epic dwellings. And I can simply waft to the bed in my nightdress. Each one magical, different and remarkable in their own right. Oh, I'm in a spaceship now. We'll be visiting these 18 astonishing homes across the series as they get whittled down to a short list of 7. Then in the final programme, here on Channel 4, we'll find out who has scooped the grand prize to become the House of the Year 2017. It's always exciting and a privilege, in fact, to be invited into a secret world, to look around other people's places, to see inside some of Britain's most extraordinary houses. I hold the magic invisible key to the front door, so let's go. I've got it. Fine architecture can come in many guises and forms. It can be a single object that shouts, "Look at me!" Or it can come as an almost invisible whisper. It can be magnificent and elegant, like this place, St Anne's Court in Surrey, designed by Raymond McGrath in 1936. It can be fluid and curved, straight-edged or knobbly. For it to be good, it has to be inventive. It has to make you feel good. But if it is to be great, it must always speak of its time. Exploring these amazing buildings with me will be Editor-at-Large of Elle Decoration, Michelle Gunderhin. And architect Damien Burrows.
Can I sniff your cork?
As usual, we've split the long list into 4 loosely themed categories, and we'll look at a different one in each episode. This time, we've grouped the houses into a category which an architect might call vernacular. Fancy term, but all it really means is that a building might use local materials in some way or acknowledge a local tradition in architecture. To you and I, the vernacular is how we might speak, of course, and that's what all these houses do in this episode. They engage in a conversation with their location. They're born of it. They speak the local lingo. And our very first house on the long list speaks with a West Country accent, as it's in Bath, a city awarded UNESCO World Heritage Site status for its classical beauty, executed in one material, Bath stone. The city of Bath is a fantastically coherent statement, a single statement about what architecture should be in the 18th century, early 19th century. It reflected a passion, a belief that somehow in this local stone, masons and architects could reproduce some of the civic values of the ancient world. All very well then, but what do you build in a place like this now? The answer is you put up a building that resonates to the ideas, colours and textures of its historic surroundings, and yet is altogether new. Hill House. The owners and architects behind this home are Anne Claxton and Mike Keyes. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
You must be Anne, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Hi.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Mike.
Hello, hi.
How are you?
How has it been finished?
Just under 2 years.
So 2 years to live in it and get to know it.
Yeah.
But have you always lived in Bath?
We bought this, which was a bungalow, about 13 years ago, with the aim of building a new house. We thought we'd be a couple of years in the house, It turned out to be about 10 years before we actually knocked it down.
But was that determined by you or by the planners in Bath?
It was us entirely. We took a long time just thinking about it, and
Yeah.
the kids were growing up. So we just sort of let it flow a bit until the house literally got to the point where we had to get rid of it and start again.
It was certainly worth the wait. Set in a third of an acre and covering 220 square metres, Hill House is made of 2 offset blocks. You enter into a hallway with a service corridor running the spine of the house. The south-facing, open-plan living area connects the master bedroom at one end with a study in the middle, which leads on to a second and third bedroom. Nice and neat. But while the house may look like it's Bath stone, Anne and Mike have in fact used bricks, lookalikes with flush lime mortar to produce a continuous texture, redolent of its neighbours.
We felt that Bath stone was a bit too harsh and bright. So although it's not Bath stone, we were very careful to make sure that the texture, the colour, the tone of it matches.
The RIBA judges said that modernism of this quality is rare within the centre of Bath and should be encouraged. And this understated modernism carries on indoors. Oh, it's nice and cool in here. I want to be drawn down this corridor because the ceiling sort of betrays how the building's built.
Yeah. So the joists are all exposed all throughout.
It's all out of wood.
Yeah.
Construction was in timber frame, with the addition of 2 massive steel lintels to support the entire south side of the building, allowing uninterrupted floor-to-ceiling glazing. Oh, there's your reveal. That's quite theatrical. Whoa, hey! As you walk through, it sort of, absolutely lifts.
This is all about connecting out. Because we had a reasonable sized plot, we wanted the opportunity for all the rooms to open out. You can see all the bedrooms have sliding doors as well.
Mike and Anne's daughters have their bedrooms and living space at the opposite end from their parents, with their own private exit, essential for teenage life.
It's quite good being able to come in and not sort of wake everyone up. It doesn't mean you sort of have to worry about being told off for coming in too late. You can just sneak in at whatever time you like. And no one ever knows.
They do now. This unconventional yet beautiful house brings something new to Bath, which hasn't always been welcomed in the past.
It was a sensitive site, surrounded by historic buildings, many of them listed. We were concerned whether or not proposed developments would respect that context and actually enhance not only the setting of the historic buildings, but also that part of the conservation area.
You could potentially have put a number of houses on, or we could have built a much bigger house, but we kind of built what we felt was appropriate for the site.
And this sensitive and frankly modest approach won the planners over.
It does prove that actually you can deviate from classical architecture and actually still be successful, even in a place like Bath.
And while Hill House is clearly a modern thing, a love of the surroundings is written into its DNA. This is brilliant. It's a bathroom with a double doors, deliberately so that you can lie in the bath and...
Yeah, you can lie in the bath and get the view of the church.
I mean, how much time do you spend in the bath looking at that view?
I'm often in the bath, aren't I? Yeah. Not all day.
The connection from Bath to Bath and all of the thought that went into making this house fit in was helped by 10 years of living on the site before building works even started. Spending time in a place, knowing this place intimately, must make itself felt in the building when it's finished.
Yeah, all sorts of little decisions, I guess, from the materials to how we've sited the building to how we live in it, I think, are all part of that.
The more you put into it, the more you get out. So all the things that we've actually physically done and taken time over adds to our experience of living here.
A developer could have moved in and just chucked up, 3 or 4 townhouses. Instead, these guys have lived here. They've rooted themselves in this community. They've got to know this place. They've learned the language of Bath. And as a result, they built a 21st century building that is utterly uncompromising. One that speaks the language of international modernism, yes, but is also able to write a little bit of local poetry. From West Country poetry to the songs of the Highlands, there are 4 more homegrown, locally inspired properties to visit before we find out which have made the shortlist for House of the Year. The homes that are being considered for the RIBA House of the Year couldn't be more different, from clever, urban, skinny-fit, hipster living spaces to wild and woolly rural hideaways with pork chop sideburns. The common denominator, what they all share, is conviction and originality, a desire to do whatever is asked of them better. Traditionally, buildings in the windswept Scottish Highlands have been constructed to be sturdy. But architect Damien Burrows is here to see a house that is more than just functional. Designed by outdoor enthusiasts Jill Scampton and Andy Barnett.
We've been coming here mountaineering for decades, and as a pair of architects, you know, there are just some stunning places to build here, so we always have had this ambition to do a project up here.
Jill and Andy bought run-down Fernaig Cottage for about £100,000. And they loved this 150-year-old shepherd's hut so much, they didn't just restore it, they built it a twin.
Hi, Damien. Good to meet you.
How are you?
Yeah.
Hi, Damien.
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
This is stunning. The proportions are so pleasing.
Yeah, well, the proportions come from the traditional Scottish longhouse, and it had its own charm, really, right from the start.
The original cottage on the left and the new extension on the right are the same shape, but inside, the old part contains 3 bedrooms and a bathroom, while the new addition houses a single open-plan kitchen, dining and living space.
We took away a lean-to shed at the front of the house. We used that stone to build the stone walls at the front of the new bit. We didn't import any stone, it's all come from what we had on the site.
But while the stones may not have travelled far, for the tin roof, they went all the way to Sweden. Rusting steel roofs are a familiar sight on old Highland buildings, and Jill and Andy wanted to keep that idea, but in a material that would withstand the Scottish seasons. This high-performance, zinc-coated steel is finished with sustainable paint made from rapeseed oil, and the Swedes were apparently the only ones that had the right shade of red to match the original. But if the outside stays true to its farming heritage, inside tells a different story.
Wow, this is so crisp and light in here. It's a complete contrast to the outside of the building. Everything's so sharp and neat, the light's flooding in.
The large windows have been carefully positioned to capture the most of Scotland's precious sunlight and to frame the great views out. But where the lower, newer part of the house is more restrained, as you move gently up to the bedroom wing, the cottage's history shines through.
This side of the house very much is inspired by the original shepherd's hut.
We wanted to keep a lot of the character of the original cottage because we really enjoyed that.
And that is such a cute little window down there. So that would have gone down to the floor originally.
I think they'd blocked it up, but we think the sheep came in and out of there. And then we just unblocked a bit of it to put a window in, but it's just perfect height for lying in bed and, you know, looking out.
The RIBA judges said that Jill and Andy had, with gentle diligence, enhanced this remote little corner of Scotland. The secret of their success was to take time to work out the design. Jill and Andy visited the rundown house once a month for 2 years to test and develop their ideas.
It had a coal tap. It did have a loop, but you had to flush it with a bucket, and it had electricity, so you could just about manage to visit. It was a wreck, really, but it was enough that we could get a feel for the light and how the sun was coming in the mornings and the evenings.
Once they'd worked out their approach, they chose a local builder, Adam McDonald, who'd never worked on anything so challenging.
At the very beginning, I said to Andy and Jill, you know, my limitations, there's things I've not done, and it'll be a learning curve. A lot of houses you're building for clients, they're not going to know if house is an inch smaller or 3 inches wider, but Jill actually measured it when she came up and said it was within 3 mil or 5 mil, the foundations, you know, which I was delighted with. It was good to work to that, you know, exacting tolerance, but it put a fair bit of stress on us.
But even more demanding than Adam's clients' standards were the weather conditions.
You want to get as much done in the summer months as you can, but in summer months, midges are here. So yeah, we had to have midge hoods on most of the time. And then with stonework, you could only do that certain times of year with the frost. So we had to try and fit all that in before the bad weather came. When the winter came, then you had the snow and the ice.
From the end result, it's clear Adam works well under pressure. Watching this site evolve over the 4 years since they bought it has been one of Andy and Jill's 2 daughters, Florence.
My whole life they've brought me here. I think for them it was almost like their 3rd child, really. It was kind of their baby. They're a great team, actually. They both know what each other is kind of thinking. It's funny how they kind of both work really well. They might have arguments on really tiny, petty details, but actually they kind of just get on with it, and I've always been really impressed.
For just shy of 300 grand, you've got this incredible house with amazing views in its own land.
We have done it from a point of view of love and passion of architecture and the Highlands.
We're, you know, overjoyed, really. It's a treasure for us.
How could you not be? It's fantastic. Really great home. What truly sets this house apart is the relationship between the old and the new. What Andy and Jill have managed to do here is to bring together 2 different worlds and knit them with seamless grace.
You know, it's easy to cloak a building in local materials to get it to fit somewhere. I mean, that's just camouflage. Whereas it's much harder to delicately adjust the colour, the rhythms, the height, the shape, the details of somewhere in order to get it to echo the spirit of a place. And that is much more subtle. All the homes in this programme do that. And our next house does so by drawing on the tradition of the South London terraced house. What a charming 19th century typical London street this is. Victorian houses covered in pebble dash, very polite. And opposite them, a brand new 21st century edition, something just as polite. This is number 49, an update of the London terraced house that takes advantage of its wider plot. While Victorian terraces usually sit on a long, narrow sliver of land, number 49 sits sideways on the road. The house revolves around a central kitchen diner, which connects to a living room and studio space in the side return. There's 1 bedroom downstairs and a master one upstairs, along with a TV room cum spare room. The owners, a couple, Stephen Davis, who was also the architect, and Laura Lewis Davis, a museum curator. Oh, hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well. How about
Good to meet you? Yeah, very well. Good to see you. Hi, Steve. What a great building. It's got great poise, this building. It's beautifully polite. This seems to sort of take the language of all of these terraced houses and kind of rework it almost. Am I allowed in?
Yes, let's go in.
Yeah, great. Thank you. The outside may be polite, but the interior is a bit more progressive. There aren't many traditional rooms, but a series of semi-enclosed spaces that fluidly lead one to another. Oh. Oh. How very beautiful. So just like the outside, it's very controlled inside. It's very judicious, you know? It's kind of serene.
Measured.
Measured, yeah, that's a good word for it. So what you've done is you've occupied a plot which is sort of roughly the same area as one of those terraced houses.
Yeah.
You've just sort of swung it round through 90 degrees, effectively, and you've got slightly less garden.
Yes.
But in fact, you've got 2 open spaces because you've got one.
Well, we've got 3 because we've got that one.
You've got 3?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. Oh, so actually, you're doing all right. Stevens made the very best of their small plot by blurring boundaries and merging thresholds. Extra wide openings make the kitchen feel bigger. Storage boxes cleverly double as room dividers. Upstairs, the traditional waste of space that is the landing has been dissolved into surrounding rooms with multiple sliding doors. So you have a choice. You can move from the cupboards, which are cleverly positioned behind this door here, which is sort of a dressing room, yeah? And I can simply waft to the bed in my nightdress this way and out to the bathroom there. Or if I happen to be watching television till 2 a.m., yeah, I can be quiet and I can not disturb my partner, and instead I can creep in to the bedroom this way too. It's all been beautifully designed and organised by Stephen. But he doesn't have the monopoly on organisation. You work in museums.
I do.
And there is a sense, looking around the room, that it feels very curated, right? And that can't be accidental.
It's very much about not having things that are overcluttered, but also having things in collections. When you've lived in an old house, it's got nooks and crannies. And we were really conscious not to design out nooks and crannies, because you need nooks and crannies. Nooks and crannies have character. You can display your objects.
And the fastidious approach to display can even be found in the utility room. I think their attitude to domestic organisation is exemplified by the pegboard. I've never been to a house that looks so perfectly organised. It's like being on a photo shoot. Look at it. I don't touch anything. I mean, what's that for? One key by itself. What's that for? Don't really want to know. But it's precisely this level of organisation and care that makes this house remarkable, and it's exemplified by my favourite bit. When I first saw the photographs of this place that the RIBA sent through, the one photograph that made me stop in my tracks was of this staircase. Because it occupies a tiny, tiny footprint. It's like a medieval winder. It goes up on itself as in a tower. It fits so snugly and neatly into the building. And it has a kind of grandeur almost about it, despite its tiny size. Oh, and by the way, it looks as though it was crafted, as indeed it was, by one person. Stephen commissioned the joiner, James Christopher, to build this mini masterpiece.
Initially, I just laughed at him, basically, because I said, you're just going to spend more than you earn in a year to make a curved staircase. It's just not worth it.
But together, they came up with an ingenious and affordable way of making it.
Beneath that curved staircase is a completely standard kite and winder staircase. So 2 straight flights with a set of winders between it. What I was then able to do was I was able to create formwork that created the curve that Steve wanted to then overclad the staircase with a completely curved barrel. Oh, it was a massive amount of work.
It's taken a lot of hard graft to make a house that appears so effortless. But has all that work been appreciated by the neighbours?
No, I love particularly the bricks that I've used on that. They're very unusual, not something I've seen before. It's definitely improved our view from the front of the house.
Wow, it's rare people can say that with architecture.
Yeah, I love it.
People are flattered maybe that he's decided to actually build down our street rather than any other street. So I think there's a lot of pride in that.
It's a powerful building indeed that helps people find fresh value in where they live. Number 49 has taken a classic story of design and layout and rewritten it for its time and place. What an exquisite house, eh? What a quietly radical interior. What a contribution to place it makes, too. You know, as a result of all this, its antecedents, the houses that themselves were born in the 1880s that are across the road here, these lovely Victorian cottage terraces. These homes can now look over the road at their grandchild and say to it, "You are all right, mate. Go on, my son." 2 more wild projects remain to be seen in this selection of local houses.
But I remember on my first visit, I thought it was humongous.
Before we discover which will make the final 7.
You know, for a small country, we have an unusually diverse variety of building traditions and materials. And that's because the geological time span between the granite mountains of West Wales and the mud flats of East Anglia is about 1 billion years, which means every 25 miles you travel in the UK, the geology changes from chalk to clay to limestone to slate, which means traditional local building materials change, and so the buildings themselves change. All of which means our architecture has the potential to be rooted to where it is.
This is Kent, where the chalk of the South Downs gives way to a clay soil, perfect for making roof tiles for the area's signature building, the Oast. Thousands of these sprang up from the 1800s to dry hops for the nation's breweries. Now most are converted into homes, but the owners of our next project chose to build a new one and give it bodybuilding classes. Caring Wood is a collection of Oast houses on steroids, set in an 84-acre estate and covering a mega 1,443 square metres. This home has been built on a stony outcrop and accommodates 3 generations of one extended family. Michelle Lagundahin met the architects behind this beast, Niall Maxwell and James MacDonald Wright.
James, how does something of this size even begin to come off the ground?
The clients for this house are my parents-in-law, and we had a number of conversations that came out of large family holidays where we were renting houses so that we could spend time together, and eventually that sort of spun off into a brief for a house that we could all come and spend time together at.
So this is one house for Mum and Dad, and then the 3 daughters and all your respective families.
3 generations.
The jumble of towers appears confusing at first, but when viewed from above, you can see that they're 4 Oast houses built around a square core. You enter into the upper floor of the main block, which houses a gallery and concert space. Then you go down to the main communal living floor, all of which is built around a 3-storey hidden courtyard. Then off the main building are 4 individual houses with bedrooms for the extended family, which are reached by hidden passageways.
This really is like the modern country house. There's one space that generations of a family can all come together and enjoy.
Part of the original brief was very much an English country house, but we explored the nature of that.
It's a very particular landscape in Kent. It's not something that's replicated across the country. In Kent, the Oast is a very strong symbol, and we were keen to capture that.
I can't wait to see inside.
Come and have a look.
Thank you.
You enter straight into a true grand hall that serves as a gallery and performance space.
I mean, this is certainly more than your average hallway.
Part of our brief here was to provide a space for music and art, and so it linked very well that we would have this formal hall.
But as you move down the grand staircase, things become more familiar and more domesticated.
Ah, so now here we are in the heart of the house. But it already does feel much more intimate than those sort of big public spaces upstairs. I wouldn't quite go so far as to say it feels cosy, but it does just feel like a rather glorious big family kitchen.
Although this house is on a massive scale, it still works as an extended family home. The 4 Oast houses, where each branch of the family have their bedrooms, break down what could be an overwhelming building into bite-sized chunks.
Everybody within the family got to choose which Oast they preferred. Fortunately, everyone chose a different one. My wife and I, this is our room. There's definitely a strong sense of privacy. It's quite nice to know that you've got that sort of quiet space to sit and read or think or listen to music.
But of course, it's when the house is full of the noise and life of an extended family that it really comes alive.
I remember on my first visit, I thought it was humongous, and we often walk around saying, "Where are you?" And someone was like, "I'm over here," and like, "Where is that?"
But James has developed a practical solution for finding lost children.
Come in, children. Come in, children. Are you there? Over.
We are here, Father.
What's your 10 for?
We are in the room with the piano. Over.
If the hustle and bustle of family life gets too much, the house has a 3-story central courtyard for quiet contemplation.
It feels incredibly peaceful and calm, and a real quiet spot at the centre of all this sort of family activity that you can imagine revolving around it. It's very meditative.
A lot of thinking time went into this house. There were 3 years spent on design, and then another 3 on construction. The walls were made of poured concrete, and the roof is cross-laminated timber. But despite these high-tech innards, the RIBA judges particularly admired the rich, warm palette that ties the house to the Kent countryside. The floor tiles are made of local clay. The walls are clad in Kentish ragstone. But it's the Kent peg roof tiles that really leave an impression. They've been handmade locally since 1588. For the current factory, Caring Wood was one of their biggest ever orders.
So tell me, what is a Kent peg tile? Kent peg tiles are smaller than a standard tile. They're flat, they have no nibs on the back, and they have these lovely square holes here. And it's where the expression "you can't fit a square peg in a round hole" comes from.
Ah, wow.
A maker can make an average of 1,200 tiles a day.
150,000 were needed for Caring Wood, and the whole order took a year to complete. Each piece of clay is sprinkled with sand for texture, shaped, cut, marked with a handprint, and punched with the maker's mark.
Right, so, OK. Oh! So how's that? Will that pass?
Let's have a look. Got all the markings, handprint, holes, sand coverage.
Yay!
Excellent.
I like this. So this is my little unique marking here.
1,199 to go.
The grey clay tiles turn a rich red oxide on firing to contribute to a soft, informal and welcoming language of buildings that in Caring Wood translates indoors too.
Niall, do you get to visit?
Yeah, but I'm coming as a guest now. It's great to experience, and more importantly, it's great to see it being used and enjoyed.
Despite its scale, this contemporary interpretation of the English country house doesn't feel remotely grand or pompous inside. It's really just a big, happy, friendly family home.
How on earth do you compare buildings that are so different? These houses are not being judged on their size or style or budget, but on a whole bunch of criteria that add up to architectural merit.
The jury making the tough decisions is led by esteemed architect and critic Deborah Saunt, along with last year's winner, Richard Murphy, and comedian Jenny Eclair, here as a lay assessor, whose own house won the prize in 2005.
Well, I'm the least trained of all the judges, but I might be the one that asks the questions that people at home might be wanting to know.
It's up to them to scrutinise every detail and junction in these buildings before deciding on the winner.
It's a bit like bringing together lots of people at a restaurant where they all want different things, but you've somehow got to agree on one shared meal.
Do you sometimes have an allergy to things that are perfect?
No, I strive for perfection in my life.
We've seen 4 exceptional houses now. There's just one more remarkable home to see before we find out which will be added to the shortlist for the RIBA House of the Year 2017. So far, we've visited 4 buildings in our local traditions and materials category for the House of the Year 2017. There's just one more plucky contender to see.
For millennia, our homes were made from the very ground beneath our feet and the trees above our heads. Damien has gone to see a house that's continuing that essential relationship.
This is Northumberland, one of the least populated parts of England, and home to an unusual form of local architecture, the Bassal House. These were Tudor period fortified farmhouses built to defend from would-be raiders. They had a first-floor living area with room for livestock below, and their influence is felt in our next house.
Look at that. That looks very smart indeed.
This is Shoreham House, made of locally quarried stone and large from near the Scottish border. This is clearly a house of Northumberland.
Hi.
It's home to retirees Anne and Tony Pender and their son Richard, who was the project's builder.
Hi. Hi. This is a stunning build, isn't it? It looks so sharp you could cut your finger on it. You really could. Who lives there? Do you all live there?
It's built for us as our retirement home, really. We lived for 20-odd years in the old farmhouse across the way there.
The new building sits against the wall of the courtyard garden and incorporates the farm's old stable block. On the ground floor are 3 bedrooms, a utility room and a study in the old stables. On the new top floor is an open-plan living kitchen and dining room, and next to it, they built a mini-me garage. The upside-down living arrangement is a deliberate nod to Northumberland's past.
Intentional historical reference there because of the Bassal House here, which was built to have the living quarters upstairs, so when the Scots came hoarding down, you could pull a ladder up and pour boiling oil on them.
But an unconventional layout wasn't Richard's only challenge as the builder. This was his first big construction job, after a career move from environmental lobbying.
Had you built anything before?
Yeah, I didn't have that much experience. We did a couple of sort of small flat renovations. It was certainly a nerve-wracking venture to sort of leap into.
I mean, it looks incredible from the outside. I can't wait to see if you've maintained that same level of detail and quality on the inside. This is really light, isn't it?
Yes. I find it quite uplifting when I first come in.
The double-height hallway runs into the stable block, where there's the master bedroom and a generous study. But if you don't fancy the stairs, there's a lift to the first floor.
Wow.
There we are. Welcome upstairs.
Look at this space. From the conversation we were having, I was expecting to come up to a downsized retirement home. This says absolutely everything but.
By going for an upside-down house, Anne and Tony have a living area with generous space, height and inspiring views of the countryside.
It makes you feel you've got a whole new vista ahead of you. It couldn't be more different from the old farmhouse, could it?
You can sit there and simply enjoy the view. It doesn't really matter what the weather's like. It's just lovely looking out of it, as long as it's not fog.
But this house delivers more than views, much more. It is designed with care and built precisely and beautifully by their novice builder, Richard.
How did that work with yourselves as the client and your son as the contractor?
I find it slightly difficult to comment on that. There were very tense moments. They still rumble in the background, I might say.
Could I ask, how much was the budget?
About 420,000.
420,000. Certainly not an insignificant sum. How close did you get?
More or less spot on.
Bit of change?
Haven't heard of it yet.
It's working its way back to you. It'll be in the post.
The marrying of new, clean work with the ancient existing farm buildings delighted the judges. They called the meeting between old and new understated, yet beautifully composed.
What I love about this build is they've integrated this fantastic, great big, sturdy, stable block. And that's allowed them to free up so much more space to add this wonderful contemporary extension to the side.
The man that brought these two halves together was architect Dan Kerr, who designed a house that passed the tough local planning restrictions first time.
Designing a building on one side that you know has got to get the planners on board is one thing, but then you've also got to design a building that you have confidence that Richard can build.
Yeah.
You weren't tempted to dumb it down?
All the way through, I think. This wasn't a straightforward build, you know. We're trying to push the boundaries on this one. I think it was just the fact that you were determined to do it, and quite astonishing, really.
Dan, you're stuck right in the middle because you're between the client and the contractor, which traditionally these two bodies would be totally divorced, but here it's the absolute opposite.
There were some times where there were slight disagreements in whether there should be certain details. A few debates around the kitchen table.
Part architect, part family therapist, I think.
Yeah.
In between his conflict resolution work, Dan designed the house to be nigh on carbon neutral. He gave it rainwater harvesting and a micro biomass boiler. And the RIBA judges noted the building's exceptional environmental credentials.
Now, it's a wonderful project, but if there was one part of it that just makes you smile the most, what would that be?
Well, for me, it's the light. I come into this place, or I walk up to this level in the morning, and it's just stimulating. You think, oh, it's nice to be here.
If you were to look at a project like this purely on paper, with all of its complex personal relationships, then it's got complete car crash written all over it. But this project is the absolute opposite. If anything, it demonstrates how if a family pull together, they can achieve a building that's absolutely incredible.
We've now seen all the houses on our locally inspired long list, but which will make the coveted shortlist? It could be Hill House, a fine 21st century addition to the city of Bath that respects its historic setting. Or Fernaig Cottage, that renovated Highland sheep shed that's kept its tin roof. Number 49, an update of a London townhouse that's more than the sum of its parts. Or Caring Wood, a modern country house rooted in the vernacular that couldn't be more Kentish. And a retirement home that's based on a fortified Northumbrian farmstead, Shoreham House.
Any of them stands a chance of winning, but the RIBA jury have had to whittle the long list down. So, which have made it through to the shortlist for the big prize?
After much deliberation, our head judge, Deborah Saunt, has the results.
So, Deborah, you've shortlisted a project or two from this category, yeah?
We have. We've got Shoreham House here. A fantastic addition of two buildings around the garden wall of an original farmhouse. I think one of the reasons why we decided to shortlist this project was that it didn't shout out loud. It's actually doing something very simple, very, very well. And the care was just wonderful. When you came through here, the light falling from the clean trusses was just wonderful. That you came into this end room that looks very modest here, but actually captures this extraordinary view out across the landscape. I think of all the projects, it's one of the most highly crafted but modest projects. It's kind of got a modesty to it that we really enjoyed.
Really?
Oh, can't believe this, it's just amazing.
What was that about Champagne?
To be on the shortlist is stunning, beyond words.
So, this finely crafted, elegant house in Northumberland is through. Oh, and there's one more home that's been shortlisted.
Caring Wood, which really does represent the category well of embodying local materials and sort of local traditions and crafts.
They've fastidiously pursued the sort of local supply chain to make this building as rooted as possible.
I think people will be in awe of the craftsmanship here. It is stunning. You cannot find a bad detail. It challenges your preconceptions of what a home is. And it's something that we all shared on the jury. We went in there and just said, what is this? It's not a house for one family with one living room and one set of bedrooms in a traditional sense.
That's fantastic. Really that's wonderful to know. Feels amazing, you know, after all of this hard work and all the effort that everyone's put in creating this unusual building, it's fantastic.
So, Caring Wood and Shoreham House become our first two contenders for House of the Year 2017, joining the shortlist from this local category.
Local materials are sometimes cheaper and they're more practical to build with. They offer the opportunity for instant connection. They can be much more sustainable. They often come also with a bunch of local building skills. And all this provides us with a sort of cultural compass, linking the past with the present and pointing us forward. When we know where we've come from, we can see a little more of where we're going.
Next time, another clutch of 5 remarkable buildings, all homes with a watery theme.
It's quite exciting, waking up in the middle of the night sometimes and realising your tooth is surrounded by water.
I hesitate to take in one big gulp, but actually, wow.
All hoping to become House of the Year 2017.